Hello everyone. I wanted to get on here and make a video because I had a thought in my mind about some things. So I was studying yesterday, and through my experience and through a lot of different studies that I've done, and I started to, for some odd reason, I started to trace back to some of the Bible stories, and I started thinking about it. And I realized I have more of a spiritual lens when I think about things nowadays. I've already told people my thoughts. I'm going to leave it like that. And I'm not saying this stuff didn't really happen, did or did not happen. I don't know. I'm just going to say my thoughts on how I think. It feels like to me, based on other ancient stories, whether you're talking about ancient Egyptian mythologies or especially the Epic of Gilgamesh, that a lot of these stories are literally stories. They're symbolic about spiritual awakening, about leaving your comfort zones, about being plunged into the darkness and then coming out a brand new person. And we have multiple instances of this. You have Abraham, who literally had to leave his comfort zone and travel in the darkness and do the ultimate sacrifice, which was his, he didn't end up having to do it, but that could have been one of his awakening tests. Even further you go into it, you have Jesus going in the darkness or the desert for 40 days and 40 nights to be by himself, and he's tempted, and he's going through when Satan's attacking him. I believe that was a dark night of the soul. I believe there's a lot of different instances of spiritual awakenings in the Bible. It talks about letting go of oneself, going into the darkness, which is delving into the dark night of the soul, fighting this inner darkness. And there's a clear example when Satan says Satan tempted him in the desert. That's when he was alone. Now, whether the desert was a real place, I don't know, or whether it was symbolic and it was saying that he was dealing with his inner darkness. He felt like he was in the desert because he was alone. Could be that. Another one, Jonah, when he was all comfort on the boat, and all of a sudden he got thrown off into the well for 3 days. Or 3 days, was it 3 days and 3 nights? 3 days, I don't remember exactly the story, but 3 days, like 3 days, 3 days, 3 days and 3 nights, and ends up coming out a new person. Once again, you're all right. You're in your comfort zones. You get thrust into the dark night of the soul. You go crazy, lose everything, go through these insane experiences, then you come out a brand new person. And there's quite a few stories like that. And then I really started thinking, and I was like, no, like I said, don't attack me. I'm not saying these aren't actual stories. I'm not saying it didn't actually happen. I can't say that. I think it would be really cool if it is archetypal. It has symbolic meanings. Plus, it was actually historic, that all happened all at once. And these are actually true stories of people that went through spiritual awakenings, and this is the way they told their stories. Now, go to, once again, another archetype. When you talk about Moses trailing through the desert, leading the people, and then when it comes to that point where you have Satan and Michael fighting over where he's going to go, I feel like Satan in a lot of instances is possibly not only some type of presence or entity, I don't know that for sure, but it's also an archetypal figure for your ego and your pride. It's all human. It's your ego and your pride. When you're going through your spiritual awakening, this darkness you deal with, you're trying to cut free. And then you have Michael, the archetypal loyal spirit that's, wants to follow God, wants to do this other stuff. It makes a lot of sense, that there could be an archetypal conscious spirit and that helps you go through your dark night of the soul. But I was trying to think if there's any other instances too. There's a lot of different examples in the Bible of people that went through crazy things and then came out better people in the end. Like I said, I'd say it once again. I believe Mary Magdalene was going through an awakening as well. She was in her dark night of the soul, and she was so-called possessed by demons, when in reality you're fighting this inner darkness to become a new person. She came out a new person. She became a disciple. She became a leader. I don't really follow the gospel version of that because I don't feel led to. I feel like she was more than that. And through her awakening, she got closer to God. And it wasn't random that she was the one, the first one that had a vision of seeing the angel tell her he's risen. How she had, this intuition to go check the tomb. I believe that's not only possibly real yet, but symbolic at the same time, showing she had such spiritual connection to Yeshua, and possibly even this God consciousness intuition to hear or to know that was going to happen before it happened. A lot of the more ancient scriptures that a lot of people try to throw away, which I started out doing this, and then I started studying. I started going through experiences, dreams, visions, things, and everything. And I don't feel led to throw any of it away. I feel like it's all God experience. Whether it's symbolic or whether it's a true story, a lot of these stories seem like they're about spiritual awakenings. And they've been taking place for centuries. Everybody has their own personal relationship, their own personal experiences with God. And now this one, if anybody has any other thoughts or anything, or any other stories they might want to add in that I forgot, but yeah, I've kind of made my choice. I can't fully 100% follow something when I'm seeing older documents that are saying they're saying different things. Oh yeah, and I had another thought that I wanted to bring forward, and this is more of a Gnostic / Zoroastrian / point of view. Okay, this, I don't know if this means anything. It's just something that just randomly came in my head yesterday. So I was studying, I was talking, just doing my work, and I had this thought where, it talks about in the Zoroastrian that there's going to be a redeemer, the Sheosant, that comes to the end of the world and eradicates the evil. Okay, now I was trying to think about what is this system. Now, if we go to the Gnostic or Zoroastrian route, you have these Yazadas, or these I can't remember the other name of them, or the Archons, that are trying to control humanity. Call them demons in the Bible. Okay, so you have these beings, both internal and external, that are trying to control reality. And the whole point of the Gnostics and the Zoroastrians is to awaken this light within you, this presence, the God consciousness, and that presence alone with God will inevitably awaken people around you. But at the same time as that, as people are awakening, they're going to start probably experiencing their own dark night of the soul. Now, let's say we have a God consciousness, and action begets action. You have good actions. You're doing, if you're awakening, you're fighting darkness. You're fighting these voices that are attacking you, whether it's through audibles, whether it's through nightmares, whether it's through trying to make you do things that you don't want to do, like temptations. So you're creating this negative into the God consciousness, but you're also creating light. So it's like this never-ending balance. It's just in a circle of life, almost, in a sense. You're awakening, you're helping other people awaken, they're creating negative consciousness, then that negative consciousness is turning into light because these people ultimately awaken and become a beacon, then they awaken another person, and then it creates more darkness, and it's just a never-ending cycle. And in order to break that cycle, we need someone, you guys know who I'm talking about, Sheo-san, Yeshua, someone to come and eradicate this darkness all at once, or else it's just going to be a never-ending cycle of awakening into a sleeping into darkness, awakening, sleeping, darkness, over and over and over again, because we can never fully fix the God consciousness. And I thought that was interesting, because a lot of people, you believe in karma, you believe, good action begets good action, but if spiritual awakenings do cause darkness to come, if those darkness actions, if those beings even speaking, making you think of bad things, and that's actually affecting the God consciousness, then you see how I'm talking about, it's kind of like a hamster wheel. We need somebody that can come and just blow up the whole consciousness into light and be done. And that's when I believe true peace will come. We won't have these negative thoughts, because it'll all just be light. Asha. Anyways, guys, that's my thoughts so far. Anybody has anything you want to say, criticisms? That's totally fine, guys. I'm alright with that. My thoughts are about, I believe Yeshua was God, but not in the sense that some people do. I believe God dwells within every single person, and in a sense, we're all reflections of God. Yeshua, the Father, or the God consciousness, Christ consciousness. People try to attack spirituality. Like, well, they don't believe in that Jesus was actually a real person. They believe in this Christ consciousness in your mind. No, we believe Yeshua was a real person that got so close to God, he developed Christ consciousness, so he had direct relationship with the divine. That's what I believe. And through that, he became the closest physical representation of the invisible God, because we can't see the invisible God. So, anyways, guys, thank you, and God bless.